Well, welcome everyone to the Twin Cities Tableau User Group, the December 2020 edition. Thank you for carving out time during an ever busy 2020 to join us here. We have a pretty exciting agenda for us today. We're going to kick off with just a general welcome, get into a fun section we do every month, which is get to know a member, where if this is your first time attending or if you're a longtime attendee and have just been lurking and looking for an opportunity to share your name with the broader community, we'll get into that section next. Two presentations today. Kaela from DataDrive will be presenting on how to ignite and sustain a data-driven culture. And then Serena has graciously volunteered at the last minute to talk about Tableau and cubes in a very informal presentation, which I am very excited about.
Yeah, calling it a presentation is a stretch, Luke.
Yeah, a conversation.
It's a conversation, yeah.
And then we'll wrap up with best thing I learned / group therapy, which if you have any outstanding questions of just like, Tableau, I have a Tableau use case and I would love just an extra set of eyes or opinions on it. Really great opportunity to take advantage of the great community we do have. We usually do spend some time just to talk about some of the upcoming events in the Twin Cities area that people know about. I don't have a formal slide, so I did want to open it up to the audience to see, are there any other like local community events that either you're hosting or looking forward to either in December or the early part of January?
Yeah, I'll do one. So earlier today, we actually just had a Twin Cities Alteryx user group event. So I'm dressed up in my elf ugly sweater. Yeah, but next Thursday, we're actually hosting a North America Central Region Alteryx user group event on Thursday. You can find that on the Twin Cities Alteryx user group meetup page.
Thanks for the shout out.
I like your sweater.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Twin Cities DataViz meetup group has an event this Friday morning, and you can find that on meetup.com. I'll try to put the link in the chat by the end of this meeting. But that's for like not just Tableau, but any DataViz, UX, all sorts of cool people in there.
I'll give a shout out to a couple groups. She Talks Data. There is a book club event, and don't ask me what book they're reading right now, but it's not a requirement that you read it to attend the book club meetings. It's out on Meetup, so go check it out. I think the next one is in January. And then there's another group that was started by my business partner, Laura, called League of Data Leaders. So for any of you people that are leading or influencing data teams, data governance projects, data literacy projects, that kind of thing. It's just for people like that to get together and talk about what's working well or commiserate about what they're struggling with. So I'm actually really excited to hear Kaela's presentation about this today. So also check that out on Meetup. I don't remember when the next one is either because I have terrible memory, so.
And Serena, offhand, do you know when our next Tableau user group is?
I do. Hang on one second. I just submitted the thing for that. January 21st.
Awesome.
Yep. Thursday of the month.
And as always, we're always looking for new faces to present some content. So if you've ever thought about presenting in a low stakes environment, we're a pretty easygoing crowd, please reach out to our twincitiestug@gmail.com account, or find Serena, myself, Jim, Vince, who else is on this call? Find us and let us know you're interested in presenting, and we'll happy to get you on the agenda. All right. Next section up is get to know a member. This is a pretty cool way for you just to introduce who you are, what you're working with, what kind of data you're analyzing with Tableau. If you need help with a problem, this is a great way to do a little shout out. I did have a gracious volunteer that we told needed to present on this because they joined early. Mr. Khan, would you like to take the lead on being our first get to know a member?
Hey guys, my name is Sharam, and I just recently started working with Tableau. It's literally my third month. My background is mainly working with SQL queries and just doing a lot of data modeling. But this is like my first time working with, sorry, I meant like modeling, not data modeling, but yeah, so this is my first time just doing data visualizations and like, getting used to like the Tableau environment. And so far it's been very interesting. I work at Global Overview, which is like a marketing company, digital marketing. And so we work with like a lot of different KPIs, like conversion rates and so on and so forth. Yeah, so yeah, my role is business intelligence analyst. And so what am I good at in Tableau? I would say kind of trying to integrate Python and like R and like different kind of statistical packages with Tableau and trying to integrate that. So that is something that I'm trying to like do. But one of the challenges that I'm facing with Tableau right now is wrapping my head around the new data model, which is basically, the way it does aggregations and joins, but it's not like
about the noodle.
Yeah, the noodle thing.
Okay.
I like really like slowing down my like vizzes. So that is something that I've been like kind of struggling like understand it. So
Okay. And that's like you just mentioned you were trying to integrate like R and Python. Is that before you've even tried integrating? Is it just slower?
yeah, I mean, I've done it before, but it's when you try to upload it on Tableau server, that is where you start getting issues. Apparently you're supposed to have the add-on on Tableau server. So I can like do it on a local instance, but cannot do it on like the server instance. So that's, yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can maybe dig in a little bit further too at the end of this with group therapy if we want to get deeper into this. Awesome.
I like it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll gladly take one more volunteer.
Feel free to just unmute yourself.
Yep.
And shout it out. Maybe there's a lady in the audience who'd like to follow up.
Hi, this is Paul Lindbergh. Can you hear me? Good.
Yep, you, Paul.
Nice to meet everybody. This is my first time visiting. I work with United Health Group for about 10 years now. And I have been out of the kind of BI development realm for a good 10 years. But at one point, Jim Van Sistine and I worked together at Carlson Hotels. So it's nice to see Jim's face again. So yeah, I got about 25 years BI experience, but I'm brand new to Tableau. I went through a couple of manuals and I'm learning. And the development cycle for me is very long because I'm dealing with a billion records and I haven't found a good way to basically read limit. So other BI tools I've used is where, I can set a limit and say, I just want to look at the first 10,000 records or whatever. And I haven't found a really good way to do that. I don't want to make an extract for other reasons. So that's my hurdle right now. But I am going to be over in 2021 doing a lot of BI development. So it is something that I'd like to overcome that hurdle fairly soon. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for presenting. And my quick tip for you, not that you're asking for it, is I would still try to use an extract, but just take like the top 1,000 or so rows, and then once you're ready for that final step of production, flip it back to life. It's pretty easy.
Okay, I may give that a try. We'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, we can also jam out on that one. That'd be a good group therapy question.
Yeah, we got some good content there.
Awesome. Thanks for the volunteers. And without further ado, that's my last formal slide. So Kaela, if you're ready, I'm gonna pass over the screen sharing to you.
Awesome. Let me switch my screens here. And share. Perfect. Can you guys see that? Yes. All right. Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about how to ignite and sustain a data-driven culture. And this is really about being able to foster great culture from wherever we are. So the perspective that this topic takes, you know, a lot of people in this group are in a kind of a castle analytics environment. They're in a data organization, a data-driven organization that has, you know, teams of people working on data analytics, you know, monitoring, governance. Some other people in this group might be kind of out on an island on their own, you know, maybe as the sole Tableau developer or the sole kind of leader pushing forward these data-driven ideas. And other people are, you know, in either the consulting realm or some sort of advisory capacity, trying to give people a roadmap on how to be successful, not just buying Tableau and creating effective dashboards, but actually making them really usable throughout the organization and getting people to buy into the value of that. So that's kind of what I'll be focusing on today. And I've got kind of two quick scenarios that prompted me to write this presentation. So the first is something that I hear and see a lot, and that's when someone gets an idea. They get inspired by data, or they get inspired by an organization doing something cool, and they think, oh, I want to do that for my team or for my organization. They do some research, make some checklists, present it to their peers or to their boss, and they ask for time and resources to make that happen. And they're met with resistance. Bosses say, no, that's not a priority for us right now, or we don't have the money, or you don't have the time. Which is really discouraging. The second scenario is on the flip side of that. This is more of the top-down approach. An organization says, we have all this money and we're going to invest in this big solution and it's going to solve all our problems. And they you know, hire on some cool people or hire a big consulting company, and they make some dashboards, make some visualizations, get all their metrics. And it's time for all the staff to start using those. And what happens? Wah, wah, it falls flat. Nobody's using it, or very few people are using it. People either don't know it's there, or they know it's there and they're like, ugh, I'm not gonna get into that. It's too confusing. All sorts of reasons. Regardless of which direction those kind of data-driven efforts come from, it can be extremely discouraging and even disillusioning for staff to experience and for leaders to experience. And so today I really want to focus on how we can avoid that disillusionment, not just avoid it, but be aware that it's a possibility and that it's probably going to happen, and continue to push forward in a very authentic way to really create a data-driven culture from wherever you sit in the organization. So who am I? I'm Kaela Dickens. I'm a DataDrive client lead. DataDrive is a small analytics consulting firm. We have a lot of Tableau developers. That's why a lot of us show up here. But we also work in tools like Alteryx, Snowflake. With data science, we've just got some phenomenal new team members with lots of data science experience. So we're growing out our toolkit as well and learning from all of you. I am public sector for life, even though I work with a lot of private sector clients. So any of my other public policy nerds, you know, GIS nerds, I'm your girl. So please hit me up. Let's connect and talk about using data for the public good, which I think we're all excited about, regardless of if we're public sector nerds. And the reason I love Tableau and analytics is because it's the perfect trifecta of data, people, and art. That's really what I love, and I get to do all of that during my days. So I specialize mostly in data visualization and organizational strategy. So that's why I'm going to nerd out with you guys today on data-driven culture. It's important to note that the vast majority of the information I'll be sharing today is taken from 2 resources that are validated by my experience with dozens of organizations. The first resource is a book called Data Fluency. It's phenomenal. Thank you, DataDrive, for making me read this book. It is great. It was developed by 2 brothers who founded Juice Analytics. They've been in the industry for a long time. And then we've also taken some from Tableau Blueprint and Tableau's guidance around data-driven culture. So lots of phenomenal resources out there. These are 2 of them that I've pulled from today. I just wanted to show Tableau Blueprint, since a lot of us have probably been hearing that as a buzzword or as like an exciting new topic coming out of Tableau. I really see Tableau Blueprint as this top sentence. It's a methodology for building the capabilities you need to create a successful data-driven organization. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the cultural pieces of that, which really mostly revolve around developing analytics strategy and kind of that leadership of ideas, education in the proficiency category, and then kind of all pieces in the community category, communications, engagement, and support. So that's kind of where we'll be focusing today for this presentation. Awesome. So when we're developing any type of cultural change, there are always fears or stumbling blocks. So I want to talk about some of the fears or stumbling blocks we encounter when we're trying to bring data into our organizations. And by understanding these fears and stumbling blocks, we can better identify them in ourselves, in the people around us, in the systems around us, and in our clients or teams that we're advising or trying to encourage. So early fears and stumbling blocks when we're trying to ignite a data-driven culture. The first section revolves around data, how to collect data. Some of you in the big analytics machines, your organizations might have this figured out. Maybe you're even drowning in data. It can just be a big question, especially for leaders you may be working with who haven't dealt with that question before. They're also thinking about what data to collect. We have so much. Is it the right data? We don't know. And those can be scary questions for people to start asking and trying to tackle. And then also, what metrics are important and helpful? No one wants to collect data just to collect data. And so trying to narrow down and distill the ocean can be really intimidating. The second group is the people fears and stumbling blocks. I hear from a lot of people, my work can't be measured. Sorry, I don't produce like products. My work can't be measured, so like lay off. Which sometimes that can have some truth to it, and other times that's just a defense mechanism for two other fears that people have. The first one is when people hear, we want to incorporate data into how you work and into how you make decisions. That's not what they hear. They hear how you've been making decisions in the past isn't good enough. And some people take that as, we don't trust your gut, we don't trust your intuition, and we don't trust your experience to be enough to make good decisions. And that can be like difficult for people to grapple with. And although that's not true, that's absolutely not the intention. Some people really struggle with that fear, and it becomes very personal to their feeling of mastery over their job. And so it's up to us to change that fear into something productive. And the third fear is that people just don't trust data. Maybe they have really poor data systems. Maybe the data is really inconsistent or entered by humans, which we all know gets very messy. Maybe they have been hurt by data before and it's been kind of used as a weapon against them. So that fear can also be a stumbling block. And then the last stumbling block I'm sure we're all very familiar with is about resources, which technologies to use. Even if you've chosen Tableau, how do you pick a data warehouse? Do we need Alteryx? Do we need, to embed? All these questions around technology. How to secure funding, how to sustain funding, how to grow and buy more licenses, and then how to get the right talent. Do you hire early? Do you hire data scientists? All these questions can be fears and stumbling blocks that prevent leaders from the top of the organization all the way down to leading specific teams from diving in. So I've got a quote from Data Fluency. A 2013 survey of companies that have implemented business intelligence solutions shows that just 28% feel that the investment has delivered significant business impact. The frustration with data then stems not merely from failed expectations, but from the inability of many end users to be thoughtful producers, consumers, and users of it. So what does this mean for us? It means that it's not just a technology problem. It is a data fluency and a data culture problem. And if we pull together the right technology into an environment with a thriving data culture, that's where we get the magic that happens for those 28% of companies from 2013 that feel the significant business impact. So how can we arm ourselves from wherever we are to impact that culture and be leaders regardless of our position? It's all about moving people along this, what I would call a data acceptance maturity model. And this is from Smartsheet. I'm not a big Smartsheet fan, but I thought this was really helpful. It starts in the data denial category. This is where people have an active distrust of data and they don't use it. I'm sure we all know people in our organizations or in other companies we worked at who are in this denial area. Data indifference, where people are like, I just don't really care. Data aware, where business is collecting data and may use it for monitoring, but doesn't base decisions on it. I think a lot of companies are kind of moving into this area. Data informed, where managers use data selectively to aid decision-making. And then the ideal, data driven, where data plays a central role in as many decisions as possible across the organization. And so how can we change our culture and the individual pieces in it to move from data denial up to data driven? So priority number one is to ignite. We're igniting and sustaining a data fluent culture. So when I say ignite, I mean it's more like a slow, steady burn. And igniting that culture really starts with data fluency. This is the fluid exchange of ideas using data. How do you develop data fluency? How do you develop the ability to converse and act in an environment with a similar language to other people? When you start a new job, it takes a while to skill up on their language, on all their acronyms. Think about everything that goes into learning a new department, a new skill, a new role. All of this happens when people are starting to use data for the first time as well. And how we start to create data fluency on our teams is through data literacy. And that is the ability for individuals to understand and draw meaning from data. So a great example of data literacy, and for all you, Tableau Twitter folks out there, you gain data literacy from looking at all sorts of analytics. But for other people, I find a great example of data literacy to be fantasy football. I don't know if anyone else is doing fantasy football this year. I have two teams. One's doing terribly, and one is I'm hoping to win and beat out my fiance in his all dudes league. So we'll see how that goes. But how did ESPN and Yahoo train us all to know what points per reception means, and yards after the carry or yards after the catch, and how many points I get from a quarterback throwing a touchdown versus running the touchdown in versus handing it off? All of those things are data literacy, and Yahoo and ESPN have done a phenomenal job of incentivizing data literacy around sports. You win your money back. You get bragging rights among your friends. You can sound like the coolest person in the room at the bar when you're talking about all these cool data points. And they've also made it easy for us to understand in a very learning heavy environment. So when we think about data literacy, think about what draws you into whatever you nerd out about. And think about giving other people the tools and language to nerd out about that with you. So igniting a data fluent culture, according to data fluency and a lot of our experience, takes three key things. The first is organizational leadership. And when I say organizational leadership, this is phenomenal if it comes from a top level leader. If they set expectations and model the behaviors of data fluency while embracing their mistakes, that can be really powerful for an organization. But even if we don't have an organizational leader who can do that, we can each do that for our own teams or for ourselves, and begin to set expectations and model the behaviors that bring out positive culture. The second piece is shared understanding and language. This is the data literacy piece. So developing your own dialect around your metrics, around what success looks like. And the third is embedding those expectations, behaviors, understanding and language into everyday habits and processes. And along with that come acceptable and unacceptable ways of decision-making. So of course, culture can be defined by acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. Data fluent culture, what's acceptable, it brings well-understood key metrics to conversations. It doesn't try to butt people out with talking about really complex things that go over people's head. It's bringing people along in that regard. Data fluent culture knows how to measure performance of a project, product, or service, even if it's difficult. They go through the work to figure it out and to figure out what's helpful in analyzing that performance. It also includes data fluency skills in the hiring and employee evaluation process. So when you're hiring new people, looking for your champions, find those other people who are interested in data fluency and bring them in. Data fluent culture does not accept willful data ignorance or impassioned anecdotal evidence as the sole input to decisions. I have been on the pushing end of this with my anecdotal evidence. I've also been on the receiving end of this when someone was advocating for something that's very obviously not supported by data. In either regard, that's not how healthy data fluent culture operates. Culture breaks down when time continues to be spent debating terms, calculations, validity of data sources. So bringing people along in that can eliminate those conversations and focus on improving. Culture also breaks down when we use such an advanced level of analysis that people are made to feel stupid. So if you're finding that you're just starting out and trying to convince people who really aren't used to using data, being able to simplify and make sure that things are well understood can be the key to kind of unlocking that data fluency and data literacy in them. But we have to bring people along. Okay, so when we define like acceptable behaviors and unacceptable behaviors, some people go, and that can be risky. Like there are risks to saying this is how we're going to operate now. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and tease that out. So what are the risks of doing any sort of cultural change? The first is fear of change from team members. There are lots of reasons that people fear change. We talked about some of them earlier, but this is a natural thing to expect from people. And that's okay. It's normal and it happens to all of us. People can also feel undermined if they're on the front lines, like, oh, you know, I'm sure we've all received this. You don't tell me how to do my job, or I know how to do this. And they can feel undermined if we don't go about it in the right way. Another one is a protection mindset. So especially this comes from like managers or people who kind of have control over their area. They're like, oh, you know, I have to protect my house. I can't let anything new in. Also, people feeling like I have to have all the answers. Maybe being data-driven means that I have to have all the right answers. And then on the flip side, the disillusionment of talented people. If you're trying to make this change and you're articulating, you know, we're moving toward data-driven decision-making, and some people, I'm sure a lot of people in this group we're the early adopters. We're the ones who want to be like, yes, let me start developing tools for this. And I'm just going to get us going. And when that meets resistance, we can be disillusioned really easily, which is a huge risk. So how do we counteract that? It's really by fostering a culture of learning. At DataDrive in particular, we use a lot of different language around this culture of learning. And I want to break that down just a little bit. A culture of learning really means that we embrace experimenting. We embrace trying out new ideas. We embrace silly questions. There are no silly questions because for us all to move forward together, we have to ask, we have to grapple with these things. We have to embrace critical feedback. We have to embrace when we hear, oh, what the heck is this? We have to embrace over-communicating with the new people. Let's bring them along. We have to embrace failing big. We have to embrace starting over. And all of this, when we confront those, whether we build a dashboard and someone says they don't like it, or it doesn't meet their need, or whether we bring up a new idea and it gets shot down immediately, embracing that culture of learning means that it's okay to fail. And that really means that you'll learn what works faster. So all of this is kind of like a resilience question, but as leaders, whether that's us or functional leaders, make failing okay, embrace our mistakes, communicate our mistakes, it makes it okay for other people to experiment and to try things and to fumble over their words as they're explaining a new concept. And so that vulnerability, that culture of learning, we're all in this together and we're here to get it right, not to be right. That is, I would say, the number one thing that I see disabling teams from having a data-driven journey be successful. And so wherever we are, we can embrace this mindset ourselves, this culture of learning. And I've found that it's really infectious. And I've known the Tableau community to be really embracing of this. And if we can bring that into our organizations at large, it can be really transformational for other areas of the business. So what does igniting a new culture take? It takes setting expectations, creating a clear vision for yourself, your team, or the organization. This is really especially important for leaders to do again, that culture of learning manner, not as a stick to punish people with, but as a, this enables us. Articulate clear expectations of using data to inform decisions, and then modeling that, communicating using data. When our leaders communicate using data, it starts to familiarize us with that. When we start communicating using data, maybe your manager who doesn't, ride on that train will start to get used to that and hear that and ask questions in their own mind. And then modeling data literacy and bringing other people along in that. And then enabling your people, whether that's people on your team or the organization as a whole, encouraging curiosity. As people are curious, you can enable them to explore data and use it in real life, and ultimately accelerate informed decisions. So all of these things are really important. So igniting step one, if this is really targeted toward the people in this team who are working with brand new ideas, organizations that are just getting started in starting to use data. So what is step one to ignite? Ask yourself or ask your team, what goal, if accomplished in 12 months, would cause us to celebrate? Very simple question. It can have a million answers, and all you need to do is pick one. And then develop 3 to 5 key metrics around that. And make sure you choose good metrics. I see a lot of teams, a lot of organizations having so many ideas or feeling like they have to get everything down on the page. But that can be a big stumbling block. And so being able to hone people in on just a few metrics that will really work for them can be remove that stumbling block and overwhelming feeling. So when we talk about choosing good metrics, it's important to know the true value of data. A lot of people say, oh, data is so valuable. We learn about what we produce, what we spend, if people are satisfied. And in fact, like, data is pretty costly. It's pretty expensive to collect data. It's pretty expensive to house data. It's pretty expensive to visualize data. And so what people really want to get out of data is insights. What impacts our production? Does spending align with our goals and outcomes? All these different insights that we can gain from the data. Oh, maybe that's where the true value lies. And the insights are key. I mean, we all work every day honing insights for people. But what really brings the true value of data to fruition is action. What action is coming out of those insights? Are you doing quality improvement, process improvement? Are you communicating better, budgeting better, aligning better, innovating better? And regardless of where we sit in the development process or the ideation process, really tying that action to our data it is where that true value really comes to life. And, I've seen it a million times. I'm sure you all have too, where, people get so caught up in the measuring and the collecting that they forget to actually act based on the data. And once people start that process of picking data, developing insights, taking action, they figure out what they can actually act on, because we don't often know from the beginning. And so once you learn what you can act on, you can filter that back into the data you're collecting. And it's that wonderful iterative process that we all see. Maybe it means that your awesome dashboard only lasts 6 months because they figure out they can't act on that. But what a phenomenal piece of the process that we all got to participate in. Okay, so creating good metrics, I'll kind of blush over this. I feel like a lot of us are comfortable in this, but good metrics can identify problems or measure performance. Like I said, so when we look at the 4 principles of good metrics, the first one is actionable. So I always tell clients, like, so when this metric changes, do you know what caused the change or what it should cause you to do? Do you know what you should do based on how this metric moves? So really, like, tying that to the decision-making process can make that real for people and make them really question, is this actionable? Accessible and credible data. Obviously, we want data to be accessible. We can't use metrics if we can't find them or track them, or they're too difficult to track. That can be a big barrier for people. Common interpretation, so people in the organization recognize what the metric means. It just needs to have value to people. And then transparent, simple calculations. I've seen teams use like really crazy ratios and like comparative percentages of blah, blah, blah. That gets really like crazy for frontline users. And if the analysts understand it, that's great. But the people who are probably going to be acting on that measure aren't going to understand where that came from. And that can really break down that culture and that trust. So the best metrics fit all 4 of these categories. And for those of you who are starting to identify metrics, maybe you're, whether this is for a new dashboard or maybe you're just starting out as a developer, I made a metric organizer that helped me when I was, working for the City of Brooklyn Park, and I've passed this on most recently to Greater MSP, where you can organize your thoughts around different metrics and then prioritize the ones that kind of fit those categories. So in this example, you look at the topic area, what the metric and the granularity is. Do you need to slice that data by different demographic groups or something similar? Is it leading, lagging, or predictive? What does it really tell you? That can be a really interesting conversation with people. How actionable is it? How simple is it? Where's the source and the link? How do we track it? And how easy is it to get? So all of that kind of pieces together with that ease of use and accessibility. And then of course, how often is it updated? So what I've encouraged other organizations to do is put all your interesting metrics in here and then pick the 3 to 5 that are the best for you. And if anyone wants this, I can post this in, I've actually got a link to a Google Drive of this that you can use and download to help yourself or clients. Okay, step 2, I'll move it along. What time should I finish up, Serena? I can't remember what time I started. I just want to make sure I'm not running over.
Girl, you take as much time as you need.
Okay. Oh yeah, yours is you were like, it's a discussion. Okay, great. I won't take too long, you guys. Step 2 is where we start to create shared understanding. So we've identified some metrics. We've identified that goal that we really want to seek after. This is where we create shared understanding around those metrics and rally people around the value of leveraging data. So if you're meeting resistance when you're pushing forward cool ideas or trying to push your team to adopt data more, this is the section to really focus on. So developing your shared common language, finding champions, and staying focused on the shared value. And this is the shared value that I'm talking about. And that is, if we want to serve our clients well, we must make sure we are as effective and efficient with their time, money, investment, life as possible. I don't know if there are many like government people here, but that was my biggest hurdle working in the public sector, is that taking time for these kind of strategic initiatives are met with a lot of resistance, and being able to convince people that we're not doing justice to our constituents, to our residents, to our businesses, if we're not being as efficient and effective as possible. That's really the value that we had to rally people around and get people bought into. Because if you say, well, this is just what we're doing, or you're ignoring good data if you're not using this, that just kind of builds up those walls of defensiveness for people. But if you rally around a mission and around a value, that can do the convincing, because we all want to serve people better. Ultimately, that's why a lot of us are in positions, is because we care about who we're serving through that role. So if you're having trouble convincing someone that something's worth it, rallying around that shared objective, whatever that is, whatever variation of this sentence it is, can be really transformational for the value people put on it. If you're a sponsor, I would just encourage you. I love this quote. This is from Tableau's website. It's from the head of corporate analytics for Jaguar Land Rover. Sweet job. And Clive said, the business area in their organization with the highest analytics adoption is the one where the director attended Tableau training with their team. Wouldn't that speak volumes if your director cared so much that they came to a tactical training? That would really speak to how much they want to empathize with what you're going through, how much they want to know what's happening behind the scenes so that they can better communicate that to anyone they need to. So if you're a sponsor, or if you have a great relationship with your sponsor, encourage them to get in the trenches with you, not so that they start developing dashboards. Like, please don't make them do that. Please don't add that to their job. But they'll be able to relate so much better to what you are asking, to what they need to be advocating for outside of the organization or your team. Okay, step 3 is really about reinforcing data-driven decision-making through everyday activities or rituals. This is looking for questions people are asking and encouraging experimentation. So incorporate it into how you speak and act, build some data products, and encourage people to experiment. So everyday habits and rituals that I see, and this is really bringing in the community component of Tableau Blueprint. How do we keep people inspired? How do we keep people engaged, especially the people who are developing content and the consumers of the content? So reviewing, these are a bunch of examples that I see, and you guys, I'm sure, have also seen. Review your key metrics at the beginning of team meetings. If it's really important, if it's something that you're tracking regularly, just review those at the beginning of all your meetings. It'll keep things top of mind for people and tell people that you're serious about those being your goals. I've seen dashboards as art in the workspace, whether that's like paper hung up on the wall with printouts or huge TVs with dashboards flashing up. The Brooklyn Park Police Department has all their dashboards flashing up throughout the whole precinct, showing how many calls they've gotten that day, what crime is like that day, how many officers are on the job, all sorts of cool things. I've seen show and tell time for your team. This can be really fun, showing each other what's been going on. Tableau Tip Tuesdays or Tool Tip Tuesdays, if you don't use Tableau, to learn together and share tips back and forth. Rewarding people for training. Lots of training budgets go unused. I think I say that later in this presentation. Reward people for training and continuing to up their skills. I also have clients who send monthly updates with screenshots of key data. Okay, if people don't want to get into the dashboard and use it themselves, let's at least share the insights. So we have analysts who will go screenshot the dashboard, send a link to it in case people want to use it, and then type out a couple insights that they're pulling from that dashboard that month. That means that even if people aren't digging into the tools, they're still being part of that data fluent culture and that data-driven thinking. Ask probing questions during decision-making. Okay, how do we know that? Or if a tough question comes up, ask, is there data that can help us learn more about that? If you guys have extra habits and rituals that you love, please add them to the chat and I can put them into this before I send out the slides to other folks. Step 4 is about giving people license to seek answers and equipping them with data tools and training, turning champions into data product authors and hiring and nourishing talent. I hear a lot of people asking, like, do we hire an analyst first or do we kind of like get our stuff together first? And I would say that it's both. In data fluency, they highlight these 2 points that really struck me. Individuals trained in communicating with data, like those of us in this group, will grow frustrated in an organization without the tools and expectations that align with their skills. Likewise, the best efforts of leaders to shape a data fluent culture will make little progress without individuals who have the ability to engage with data. So it's really a both and type of situation. And so there are kind of 3 things that I see organizations do. We advise on all of these when we talk to clients. The first is an in-house analyst. People go, well, should we hire an analyst? Should we hire a developer? And the answer is, yeah, sometimes, and long-term, that's a spectacular strategy, whether that's a GIS person, a BI person, a data viz person, an analyst. But you have to be ready to bring them on and keep them engaged. I'm sure there are people in this group who have been hired to start our analytics, and you come in and there's no tools and no one knows that that's a priority except for the person who hired you. So important to keep that cultural piece in mind when we hire people who we expect to be filled up by the culture around them. An external vendor, so specific product builders, I think we're all familiar with some of those who say, oh, we supply this type of dashboarding or this type of reporting. And then lastly, analytics consultants who can really catalyze products or your strategy and be a partner with you and help advise you as you kind of grow in that cultural element and bring in different parts of the blueprint, including the technical pieces. What type of technology do we need? I think a lot of people here are already familiar with this, but eventually teams need a way to collect data, store data, access data, manipulate data, and storytell with data. And all of those pieces, if we keep in mind when we're working with people who aren't data centric, that process, that analytics stack can be really overwhelming to them. And it's even overwhelming to me sometimes when I look at a big organization and I'm like, how do we start to implement this stack? And the most important thing is to get champions and industry experts to help you. For those of you using Excel for your data, that can be a great starting point to start convincing people in your organization that data is worth it and data is actionable. It's also a terrible long-term plan. So as you're scaling up, reach out to other people in the community, think about scaling, accessibility, security, ease of use, and maintenance. I think some of us find ourselves in this place a lot, whether you're at a big organization or a small organization. At small organizations, they're like, where do we start? And at big organizations, they're like, how do we get a handle on all the dashboards we have out there? So there are really two approaches to identifying products. And the ones that I've seen be most successful, the organizations I've seen be most successful are the ones that use both of these. The first one is a top-down demand map. That is a focus on the intersection of important and frequent decisions. So it's important and it's frequent, and where better data leads immediately to better decisions. So important, frequent, and actionable. And you can put those on like a T chart and start to focus on the ones that hit all of those points. This is also where you can kind of identify your like core dashboards. If you have just an overwhelming number of dashboards, really getting people trained in those like wide reaching tools and products is a great place to start. But obviously you want to listen for grassroots needs. So some of your organizations may have like an ad hoc project folder, or your playground, or other ways to take those grassroots ideas and make them happen. And so being able to use both of those, kind of the upper sanctioned ones and the ones that are born out of immediate needs that people have in their jobs, and then create good governance in the middle of that, is really the sweet spot for identifying products and allowing people to participate in that data fluent culture without being overwhelmed by all the stuff or by feeling like their needs aren't met. Like I said earlier, training budgets tend to go underutilized. Don't let that happen, whether you're the person who funds training for your staff or whether you yourself have like the ability to go out and get trained. Don't let that happen. Use all that money. I just think that's so important. Okay, priority 2 is really around sustaining a data fluent culture and fanning those flames. So this is where we start to see a lot of different things come into play. This is really about letting people and ideas flourish and balancing it all with good governance. So if you think about Tableau Blueprint, creating a consistent learning community, rewards for learning, and celebrating successes. This is kind of how it looks in Tableau Blueprint, the education piece, communications, engagement, support. And this is really where you get to sustaining continuing to evolve your data-driven culture. I also love these 5 concepts from Tableau that talk about sustaining a data-driven culture. The organizations that they've seen share 5 characteristics. The first is trust. People trust data. People know where data is coming from. They trust the people who are creating those reports, dashboards, products for them. There's a commitment to data from team leads, organizational heads, all the way down to the people who are using the data to transform how they work. There's talent. People are investing in great talent to hire them on and then to keep those people engaged and happy by providing them professional development opportunities. There's a sharing aspect, which we just talked about, allowing people to share those things across departments, not staying siloed, bring up those grassroots ideas and really have that collaborative environment. And I think that's one thing that we all love about Tableau is it's so great for sharing the community out there to get us inspired, to get us trained up. The blogs, the Twitter community is just incredible. And then the mindset, having that data fluency, the value of data, and the value about doing the best by our clients and our customers. So what keeps people connected? If we're talking about connectedness, obviously community user groups, you all are here today. Doctor hours are a great way to keep people connected. Tableau has a whole toolkit if you want to start doctor hours at your organization. They have like sign up sheets. They have email language that you can literally copy and paste. They have like ways to track who's come to your doctor hours for how long and what questions did they ask. I mean, they have like made an entire toolkit. So if that's something you've been wanting to get started up, go look for Tableau's Doctor Hours toolkit. Having a steering committee of sorts can be really helpful just to stay engaged with all the different silos in the organization and making sure that you're sharing and cross-pollinating. Hackathons, competitions. We work with a couple really big clients who regularly hold competitions, and that brings out some excitement, brings out that like fantasy football, haha, my analytics are going to be better than yours. Regular syncs with teams, and again, cross-pollination and coordinated efforts. I'm gonna skip to this last view. This is really the formula that data fluency produces when looking at a data fluent culture. A data-driven organization. It's all about having a data fluent culture, which we just spent a lot of time talking about. So a clear vision, modeling behaviors, and encouraging learning. It's about having informed data consumers, focusing on meeting their needs, keeping them educated, and listening to them. Amazing data producers, who are the people in this group, hiring them, nurturing them, connecting them, coordinating them. And then a data product ecosystem that people are good stewards of, that is tailored, that's governed, and that is constantly growing. So if you want to learn more about this particular framework, that's right here. That's been a lot of the content in this presentation so far. Again, Data Fluency is just a spectacular book and has a lot of tactical resources in this area and around just developing good dashboards and great visualization practices. Okay, some quick tips and tricks. Getting a charismatic sponsor can be a big deal. Find someone who's charismatic and has a lot of pull. Commit to serve your customers above all else. Recruit your skeptics as advisors and get their fingerprints all over your work. That's a great way to like segment criticism, is to get them to help you. Let people be creative. Innovation is born out of a safe place to take risks. So do that, create that culture of learning and make a safe space to take risks. Communicate your challenges out. Don't pretend like you have it all together. We don't. Be accountable for results, not just the activities that you do. Don't be afraid to invest or ask for investment into the tools, into the training. Keep iterating, always keep iterating, and ask for help if you need it. All of us are here in this community. There are phenomenal professional services out there that you can tap into. There are other people in your organization who are struggling with these same things. And you know, trying to go it alone is just a great way to get burnout. So always ask for help. So key takeaways from today: focus on the value to build buy-in. Let's do the best we can by our customers. Model those behaviors yourself, regardless of where you are in the organization. Be the data-driven person that you want to be. Other people will be inspired by that as long as you're encouraging about it. Reward curiosity and data-driven decision-making. Really highlight that and celebrate that. And then promote that culture of learning in yourself and in your team. Again, resources, Data Fluency and Tableau Blueprint. Please go read more about these. I'm also happy to nerd out on this anytime. I love this stuff. And that's all from me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me. I'm also going to be publishing some of this as part of our Go DataDrive blog. So look for more resources there. And also I'll post these slides to the team. So thank you guys so much. And I don't know if we have time for questions, but you can always just chat me and I'll start a private chat with you. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Kaela. I'll look to Serena. How much time do you want to talk about yours?
Well, you know, this was you did such a fabulous job, Kaela. And I have absolutely no doubt that the success that you guys have seen in this space has something to do with how enthusiastic and charismatic you are just talking about it. So love that. And I don't want to miss an opportunity to for Kaela to take questions and just to continue discussion on this topic, because it is so important and it is so interesting and cool. So yeah, let's do questions.
Well said. The floor is open. Ask away.
I guess I have a question, guys. This is Michael Johnson. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So I've always had trouble, basically. I know a part of your presentation dealt with taking analytical language, and I don't want to say dumbing it down, but broadening it so there's a greater understanding. I don't know if you kind of can like elaborate more on that, because, you know, how do you really tell a person like what a standard deviation is without really getting into like the nuances of everything, let's say, right?
Totally. So I have a couple thoughts. I don't want to pretend like I'm the only, you know, person in the room who has things to contribute. So if you have things to contribute, please speak up. So I have a couple thoughts when I think about, you know, when we're doing really complex math or using statistical tools that, you know, regular people, you know, everyday people in organizations can understand. I always try to focus on what's the meaning of that data. Like, what does that mean for them? Not necessarily what all goes into it. And if people understand what it means to them, then they might ask the question, oh, cool. So how does that work then? Or they'll go, okay, cool. That's all I need to know. I don't really care about the math. So that's always where I start, is finding out what would actually speak to them about it, and not necessarily trying to educate them on what that specific technique entails. Other thoughts, and Michael, I don't know if that's helpful at all, because I've dealt with the same.
I was gonna say that basically the same thing, Kaela, is like, okay, instead of getting into like, how do you calculate a standard deviation? Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about like what has that calculation done for organizations or people in their analysis, right? Like, what can it do for you? Let's show an example of how it can be used, right? Because like, I'm sure somebody's done like some amazing YouTube video on explaining that. And, you know, go point them to that. Focus on like why you would want to do something like that in the first place.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, kind of like a case in point, you know, you can develop really good work, and basically the question is always like, well, why is this average? Why is this above average and everything? And then I kind of had that struggle to kind of, you know, get it to kind of a place where I just call it like a, you know, kind of like what I call like a distribution score, basically, is what I started calling it. That seemed to work over well when you, you know, when you use like, you know, just a common word like a distribution score. They're like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense now. I'm like, you know, but the moment, you know, you use the word deviation, they're like, oh no. So, but yeah,
I've lost them.
Yeah, Vince, who's over there, I can see his camera. He likes to use food analogies, right? People can relate to things, but it's really about like in, you know, I'm really active in Boy Scouts, and we always talk about, you know, meet the scout where they are, and then guide them to where you want them to go, right? And sometimes where they are is, I have no idea of anything you're talking about. And it comes to things like, hey, I just automated this really complicated process with Python code, and nobody wants to know about that. But you're like, basically, I made you a cake mix, right? I've packaged all the dry ingredients. You give me the fresh ones. It's going to run through and create about the same thing every time. People understand that, right? I understand a box cake mix. I don't care what the Python code does, right? I care that I'm giving you fresh ingredients and you're giving me a cake, right? But so I use those kinds of techniques a lot, like figure out where they are and kind of try to put it in their language.
Yeah, a former employee of mine, they didn't have any data warehouse or anything like that. What they had was the skills to create a Postgres table. So every time they needed a question answered, they would create a new Postgres table. So we had 800 Postgres tables and nothing else beyond that. And so when when my boss would ask me, hey, we need you to design a dashboard that can answer this question, and I told him how long that was going to take, he was dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why, because it was a very simple question for him to ask. And so I thought about it, and I was like, all right, I need the perfect analogy here. And so I was like, all right, imagine I have to make dinner for you and your family. But in order to make that dinner, I need to get one ingredient from every grocery store across all of the Twin Cities, right? And I don't know which grocery store has what, so I'm going to need to go to every single one in order to figure that out. I was like, with something like a data warehouse, we can say, all right, we need the same 6 ingredients in the same place always. And that way I can just go to one place, get everything I need, and I can get it done in 5% of the time that it would take me to do that with 800 Postgres tables. Right? So if you put the time in coming up with the right analogy, all of a sudden the lights clicked for him. Like he understood that because, you know, everybody eats. So yeah, I'm big on food analogies. Love it.
Yeah, and then one other thing I'll add to that is like I love Jim's. Oh, I love the box cake mix thing by itself, but like I love Jim's thing about like find where they are and then guide them to where either they should be or where you'd like them to be or where it's beneficial for them to be. But a lot of the times then you get removed from the process and they might need help remembering how to stay on that path. And sometimes like if it's a specific question around like distributions or box plots or something, Michael, that you talked about, and people are having those questions every time they come to that dashboard, there's certain things you can do within Tableau to like make sure that
I was going to get to that too, because a lot of it you just take 2 seconds and just play around with Tableau basically, so that works a lot too.
Totally. Great question and awesome ideas. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Does it matter what kind of, I was going to ask, does it matter what kind of cake mix? Do we have to be Betty Crocker?
No. Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, and yeah, use that freely. I am quite sure that that's not original. I stole that from somewhere, but I don't remember who to give the credit to.
Steal away.
Like, yeah, steal away.
This is Paul. Can I chime in, because I come from a different perspective?
Please.
Can everybody hear me? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I have a business background, and so I came from the business, and so 25 years I'm trying to improve the business. And I was fortunate enough in the company that I worked at that we had a lot of data, and we had 2 people out of 2,000 that was interested and would do this stuff. And I found that a couple things. The first thing is kind of know your audience. And that means that some of them are going to be interested in the stats, and some of them are going to be technical, and some of them couldn't give, you know, a hootenanny about it, right? And so you have to kind of figure out in your conversations, the questions you're asking, how deep they want to go. The second thing is actually myself, I kind of shy away from the analogies. I want to put what they're seeing in terms of the business. And so I'm going to use business terms. So this number of patients are moving over here because of this and situation. So I want to use their vernacular as much as I can in kind of describing what they're seeing you know, on the screen. And that really kind of forces me to learn the business. And unfortunately, when you're looking at the data and you're doing analysis, it drives you to understand the business. And so through my BI experience, I was fortunate. I got a lot of exposure to, you know, finance and operations and customer service and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of allowed me to move to different industries. And I've always been that cornerstone is learn the business, learn who your audience is. And I found that works well. It resonates with people when you're always talking in their terms. So that's my take.
I love that. And I think that's a huge part of data literacy. You know, it's not only the breaking down, you know, measurement terms into things that people can understand, or analytical terms into things people can understand. It's being able to talk the business with them and have that shared language and shared understanding of what different things mean, and having your own vernacular. I love that you brought that in, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
With that.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that makes data literacy, data fluency and then sort of by extension, data governance efforts so difficult, because it's almost like, you know, think about it if I'm going to make an analogy, even though you hated analogy. But, you know, think about if, you know, each organization itself is like its own little family who has created its own language, right? Its own way of speaking. And when you come in and you're trying to teach something that has both a very generic application, but also a really specific one to the language that they speak, you have to focus on both of those things. And so there isn't really this templated approach to, here's how you teach data literacy. Here's how you achieve a data fluent culture, right? Just follow these steps and you're golden. It's never that easy, because you have to know the business and you have to understand that specific language that they speak. So I love that.
I remember about 6 months into working with General Mills. I had never worked in the CPG space before. And I said a sentence, and then I rose above my body and experienced that sentence from outside of myself. And I was like, Kaela from January would have spoken like 3 of those words, and they're all like the, of, and. And oh my God, it was quite the shock.
You have arrived.
You have arrived. You can cut it.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
I wanted to say on here, just in case people weren't following the chat, Jim had created a Slack space for this group. There's already been a lot of people joined onto that, and channels being created and stuff like that. So make sure to open up the chat down below and check it out and join us, because I think it'll be really good for us to have kind of a place like that people can check in and build an even stronger sense of community with this group. So.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Jim. FYI, I will not be on that Slack channel.
That's okay. That's okay. You have enough responsibility related to this group.
And we can all talk about Serena there, because we know she's
it's a safe space.
Yeah, just start a Serena channel now. Like,
Also, Katrina has gone in and added a bunch of channels around, like, get to know a member. If you want to post something there, there's one on Tableau tips. Katrina, jump in if there's other ones that you want to highlight. But sometimes when you jump into a Slack channel, they're not all joined, and you have to like seek them out and join them. Just want to make sure you know that there's all those cool ones out there that Katrina created.
Dang. You guys know how to get shit done.
yeah, it went fast. I was like, oh, well, I can do this.
It's like we've been living on Slack for 9 months now.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
It's one of those Salesforce things, I think.
Well, does anyone have any other questions or comments for Kaela or about data literacy or data fluency? We have about 15 minutes left of our time, and I would much rather spend it just having discussions about meaningful things than try to fit in another presentation, even though mine was not going to be a presentation.
Yeah. And
I also remember hearing 2 interesting doctor concepts earlier.
Yes, group therapy.
Concepts. What am I trying to say? What did you say?
Group therapy.
Thank you. I also have a group therapy question.
Yeah, we had one on using Python and R outputs in conjunction with the Noodle and the performance on Tableau server. Circle back on that one.
Yeah, I would say more is Noodle. Just like wrapping my head around the concept, how you would like join multiple data sources that are not the same level of aggregation, that are not the same domain. How does that work? Because I'm like so used to thinking in terms of joins and row level joins that I don't know how you would like go about.
Because you're a data guy.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like, I was like trying to like mess around with it yesterday, and it was just like taking such a long time because I'm like kind of used to having published data sources which are extracts, so they're like faster. And then like for example, if you're showing data to like different business users, they're not gonna wait for 1 minute for like that wheel to hover around. They need the data right away. So for me, when I'm like using the noodle concept, the new data model concept, it's just like taking too long to load. And to me, like given like knowing your audience and like how fast they want the stuff, you know, I was just thinking maybe I might be doing something wrong. I don't know.
I'm like, I don't work for a cool enough place that has that available in their production environment. So I've only used it just in playing around with really small data sets locally.
Yeah.
But pose the question to the group if anyone has experienced slowness or other performance issues using the noodle in a.
Yeah, and then also another problem that I'm facing is
one problem at a time.
I have a lot of problems. So we're using Postgres database, which for some reason have compatibility issues with Tableau, which is slowing down everything. And I'm using a Mac right now, which basically means that it's really hard to like go into and like update all the drivers. So yeah, I actually have like 2 laptops on me right now. One is Windows, where I do all the data stuff, and then the Mac to do the UI stuff, which is like just too much work for me right now. So I have like a bunch of technical issues, and then some use like how to use the noodle concept, like how I can like kind of integrate that and like leverage on that. So I don't know if you guys have any input, because I like there's not like a lot of sources out there which like goes in depth with the whole how to like use noodles and stuff like that.
Do you like, Shahram, do you understand like the concept of what the noodle is doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on a high level, yeah.
Okay, so I mean it's just different data sources at different levels of aggregation, and it uses some fancy magic to understand what level.
Yeah, I do kind of understand that, but like I feel like the trade-off in when I try to use it is the speed of things, because when I'm using extracts, they're very fast. So I usually get the answers like whatever query I run right away. Whereas when I'm using noodles, it's like just too slow. So I don't know, in my head, I'm just thinking maybe I'm doing something wrong. The way I'm like attaching, I don't know. So I just like got introduced to the idea like 2 days ago. So I don't know if you guys have any like high level tips for that, or any resources I can access.
And you like want to get to a live connection. So you're like using extracts, but the business requirement is eventually you need to go live.
I mean, the data is like a stream level, so it gets updated every day. So I'm not like in a rush to like get data right away.
Sure.
So I do know there's extracts for even if you're connected straight to the database.
Yeah, extracts will always get your like performance bump unless there's either a really good use case for going live, or you have this weird analysis that requires billions of data to be sitting in the extract. Then it's a bad idea. Have you tried comparing that performance using relationships with like you can kind of change back to a non-relationship way? Have you been able to compare if it's a relationship issue or if it's just like your data Postgres issue?
Yeah, so if so I guess like the problem is I'm using like multiple data sources that are not, the nature of the data sources is very different, right? So the way I approach the problem is I always like do cleaning, data prepping, and aggregations to the point everything is matching 1-to-1. But in noodles, there's no 1-to-1 concept. Everything is like just laissez-faire, just add whatever you want to add and everything is gonna like happen magically. So I'm just like, and when I try to do that, things are slowing down. So I'm like thinking, I don't know if that I'm doing something wrong, like the join, but there's no idea of join. So it's like, I don't know how to like wrap my head around it.
So you can go back to the old data model, right? You don't have to use the logical layer. You can double click into any one of those tables and go to the old physical layer that Tableau had. You can even write your own custom SQL to create a unified table. But I guess one of the questions that I have for you is, of your different tables that you're trying to use the relationship model on, are they coming from the same data source? Are you connecting to the same PostgreSQL database? Or is it PostgreSQL in one spot and, HANA in another and Excel in a third, sort of thing?
No, data sources are the same.
Okay.
Data sources are the same. And when you're talking about the physical and the logical layer thing, so the physical tables I know how to do that, but that would require a lot of data prepping and cleaning and stuff, because the aggregations are not aligned properly, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're using noodles, right, the whole relationship thing, it doesn't really matter what the level of aggregation is, so it kind of joins. But the problem I'm having is I cannot be making any sacrifice on the time of execution. So on runtime, things kind of slow down, and that is not something that I want. So that is one of the problems that I'm facing right now. And on the one hand, I want to use the relationship thing, but at the same time, things are kind of slowing down. Yep. And I don't know if that's the problem with the way I'm aggregating these, joining these tables. So I don't know, maybe I might have to do some further digging on that one.
There are cases where it sounds like you might be running into a case where relationships, when you do an extract using relationships, they have to still they store them separately. So then at runtime, the extract is figuring out what relationships exist, and then I need to figure out that answer. And so you might have that rare case where, because you do have data that's in different levels of aggregation, and maybe you're trying to ask a sophisticated question that needs a little bit of everything. Yeah. That the relationship being stored has to still do a lot of work at runtime. You might, to Charlie's point, you might have a really good use case for don't use relationships. Nobody's forcing you to use that. The whole idea is relationships is supposed to make a lot of this analysis faster. You might actually have the counterpoint of that.
Yeah. And then I was also thinking maybe if there's a way that I can kind of use relationships on extracts, but apparently relationships cannot be used on published extracts. So that is one thing I was
right. Yep. Just because how that has to store.
Mm-hmm.
Is that helpful?
Do you have the ability to publish your own extract?
Yeah. So on Tableau server, there is an option using Conductor that you can publish your data sources, and you can kind of import the data sources too. But the problem happens is the relationships don't work with extracts. It has to be, apparently it has to be a proper data table. Yeah.
Yeah. Some other thought is you could if you're got a lot of different levels of granularity, you could maybe split your data sets into some more of an executive view that's going to work really fast for 80% of your visuals. And then it kind of depends on your business question, but
you
can also think about kind of setting up two different connections to the same data. One goes super deep, one's super high level. So it runs for the most part pretty fast. And then the other stuff takes its time.
Interesting.
More of a data warehousing approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I guess more focusing on making the right kind of materialized view so that it's kind of conducive to the views.
Right.
Yeah.
Or think about end user's journey. If people are coming in to just answer that 80% question that's supposed to be fast, build something around that, and then make a separate analysis for people who want to dig in. And they're the ones that are probably willing to wait a minute to get their answers because they're asking for lots of data.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, thanks for validating that thought.
Solved.
Great convo, guys.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I have a different question if anyone wants to therapize me.
Let's do it.
Let's hear it, Kaela.
It's a client issue, and I have a really hard, a client who's no, this is unacceptable. And I'm I don't know how to help you anymore. So, okay, I'm just going to share my screen because I kind of mocked up what it looks like. So this is about creating bins for currency. So it's about bin labeling and currency. So we've got different currencies, different costs, and I've binned them into, $1 to $2, $0 to $1, $1 to $2, $2 to $3. And how it shows up natively in Tableau is this float thing that I can format to be a currency. So it shows up $0, $1, $2, $3. And then anything under the $0 bin is $0 to $1, $1 to $2, so on and so forth. The numbers show up in the center of the bar above it. So it looks like it kind of surrounds $1 rather than being like showing $1 and then the bar between $1 and $2. So the person was like, I don't understand these. And I was like, well, the range is in the tooltip. So can you just look at the tooltip? They were like, no, that's not good enough. So I made this range thing that turns it into a string and shows 0 to $1, $1 to $2, $2 to $3. The problem is these bins are dynamic. So if they choose a 50-cent increment instead of a $1 increment, that string turns out like this: 0 to 0.5, 0.5 to 1, 1 to 1.5, which is also not acceptable because that's not how prices look. That's not how costs look. So I've just been trying to troubleshoot that. I figure that the whole world of Tableau uses these centered native bin, like just show the low end of the bin. But I was just wanting to query this group, see if you've had any experience with doing ranges and currencies. Maybe not, but I thought I'd at least pose the question. Does that make sense?
Would it be acceptable for your whole dollar string to be $1.00 to $2.00? So that you take into account any and all cents that could be your increments?
Yes. What I've had trouble with is getting Tableau to do that, like create decimal points in a string when the number that it's making into a string is a whole number, or is that's kind of where I get this 0.5 instead of 0.50.
Can you, Kaela, so the values in data are whole numbers, like most of the time?
No, these are like, well, it's bins, so it's averaged. It's
but the underlying data is, you know, like if it's $1, it's 1.00.
No, it's just like a float. So if it's 1, it shows up as 1.
So this might be a little ridiculous, but you could certainly convert it to a string and then determine where your decimal is and add extra zeros if, you know, say to the right of the decimal is only, you know, 1 digit, then add an additional string of 0 at the end of it.
Yes. So that's a great idea. I got there yesterday. I had initially tried to, if the increment was less than a whole, you know, if the increment was going to produce something, then I would put an extra 0, but then that made this like $10, you know, 50 cents and $10. So I was like, oh, I actually need to do that for each part of the string. But I didn't know how much that would hit performance if I'm calculating if each of these individual strings needs a 0.
Well, it would be awful for performance.
I'm glad to hear that someone else came up with
acceptable
a solution though, so that at least validates like that idea is viable. It's just costly.
So if you, I'm just trying to think, if you right click that data field in the data pane, like as the float native field, the blue field, you can select aliases. So you might be able to just, I mean, not that would be dynamic, but for like, you know, if you know that you're always going to have 10 bins or whatever, it might be kind of a quick and dirty way to get there. Just re-alias them.
We've had use cases where people are using all sorts of different increments. You can alias bins? Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That would be interesting. Maybe I could take like 30 minutes and just do that. I mean, I've seen people using 25-cent increments, 10-cent increments, 50-cent increments, dollar increments, $2 increments, and it's really the less than 1 that causes the problems. So maybe I could just do that for like 50 cents and 25 cents, because those are probably the most likely suspects.
Are they selecting the bin size with a parameter?
Higher list.
What was that? Someone just asked a question?
Yeah, are they selecting the bin size with a parameter?
Yes.
And is that a float? Is that, do you have kind of levels in a list, or so it can be anything?
It can be anything. So maybe that's interesting. Maybe I should restrict that to like 10, 25, 50, and $1, and then go in dollar increments above that.
Right. Rein them in a little,
Caleb. Also, you could certainly say if that parameter value is less than $1, then return field A. Otherwise, return field A duplicate or A copy. And you can format those two fields differently.
That's very
right. So it's technically two fields in your data set, but one field presented to the user.
Yep. Oh, I knew you guys would be creative. Thank you so much.
You brought the question to the right place.
Yeah. That's my favorite part about this.
Otherwise, like, I think somewhere deep in like the regex world, you could use like regex plus replace to find certain values, but that is a separate presentation you should do someday.
And regex expressions are only available with certain data sources.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, and we're using GCP.
Oh yeah, I ran into that a week ago.
A little touchy.
Okay, Charlie, you got me.
Sorry, Luke.
Awesome. Well, this is above satisfactory. Thank you all so much for troubleshooting that with me.
You're gonna have to come back with results, Kayla.
I will.
Want to know
for my tough customer.
Yes.
Right. So we are at the top of the hour. I want to steal an idea that Snowflake did this morning for their user group and grab a team photo. So if anyone is willing and able, if you just want to like briefly flip off your webcam, we'd love to grab a screenshot of all of our lovely faces. Don't worry, I'll count down, so I'll make sure you can smile. Oh, all right. All right, everyone say data-driven culture.
Data-driven culture.
Thanks, everyone. Cool.
Nice.
Well, thanks again for attending another monthly Twin Cities Tableau user group. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys all next year on January 21st.
Yeah, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Keep you updated.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
coming.
Great
Thanks,
to see you.
Kayla. That was awesome.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much.